Welcome. You're invited to come along on our JanAire Calf Barn Tour. On this tour, you will see a variety of barns from 14 calves up to 200 calves in size. Here is a well thought out barn with 100 calf stalls. It has 5-foot JanAire curtains on the side walls and a 3-foot JanAire curtain on the overshot ridge. The garage doors open into 3 separate rooms. One room is for bedding storage. One room is for washing down the penning. The last room is for storing milk replacer and feed. Inside the utility room, we see the mixer and bottle washer. We see the water heater, desk, and refrigerator, all in a nice working area. Out in the barn, notice the raised cement walkways behind the pens, which help with the cleanout. There is a French drain that runs down the center of the alley so that it is always dry. Notice the air distribution tube running up in the rafters. There are 2 of them, one over each alley. There is a cable running over the center of each pen to hang a heat lamp from. This operation uses a calf dryer, but feels some calves need a little extra heat for a day or 2. When we asked this operator how he came up with these ideas for his barn, he said he looked at a lot of barns. This barn has a big vented soffit in the roof overhang and in the roof overshot, so there is always a slight air movement in the building. It also has a bubble foil under the steel in the roof and end walls. Notice the placement of the thermostats, close enough to the curtain opening so that they can respond rapidly to the incoming air, yet positioned so that the sun doesn't shine on them. This barn has a JanAire ridge vent on the ridge that they close only when it is snowing or when it is minus 20 degrees or colder. This barn has an insulated roof. This farmer's story is like this. When I had manually operated curtains, I used to watch the weatherman on TV before I went to bed. If he said the weather was going to change overnight, I'd have to send my wife out to close the curtains accordingly. Now that we have JanAire on the barn, my wife is a lot happier. This barn originally was built with manual vent doors on the north side. They replaced them with JanAire air curtains. You can imagine how much brighter this barn is inside on a cold winter day now that he's installed JanAire curtains compared to when he had vent doors. JanAire curtains close up the wall way tighter than the doors ever could be. The owner reports they used to adjust the doors 4 or 5 times a day when the weather was changing. Now, they just let the thermostats control the ventilation.
I'm Dennis Mushik, owner-operator of Hilltop Acres Farm. We milk 170 registered brown Swiss cows here. I'm standing in our new 68 by 96 calf barn. Our calves are all grouped in pens here, and we've used JanAire curtains. We like how the curtains work on our barn. Our baby calves, during the winter, we keep calf coats on them, and you can see by looking at them how they love to lay in the sun when the sun comes through the JanAire curtain. Another thing we like about the JanAire curtains, we did have a conventional curtain on here to begin with. We were very unhappy with it. Draft air in. When it was windy out, it did a lot of flapping, and we weren't real happy with it. Our calves would stand there and shiver. I have conventional curtains on some other buildings, and we do live on a hill here, so when it does get windy, we noticed a lot more flapping in our curtains, and with JanAire, we don't see that. And after we took them conventional curtains off and went with JanAire, we're very happy. They're doing the job I want them to do. What we really like about the JanAire curtains is the thermostat control types. We have the south side curtains here are set on 3 stages. When it hits 40 degrees, the top drops about a foot. The air actually goes out of the middle a little bit, and it brings it down about a foot. When it gets to 60 degrees, it drops it halfway, and when it gets above 80, the whole thing opens up completely. And that's one thing we like about it, because our air is moving over the top of the calves and not on the calves. And then we also went along with insulation through the ceiling to prevent any moisture problems. And we also have skylights in here, so we're getting extra sunshine that can come over on the north side where our calves are on the opposite end. Then if you go on our north side, we have 3-foot curtains over here, and them curtains are also set at 40 degrees. It drops about a foot, and when it gets 60 degrees, they open up all the way. And we've been very happy with the way it's worked. We've installed ceiling fans in here for air movement. Another thing we did in this calf barn is underneath our bedding is a lime base, and we really like the lime base because with the air movement in the lime underneath, we have very little ammonia problems. When I started designing this, when we put the calves in, I could get down on my hands and knees, and I'd be 4 to 6 inches away from the bedding, and there was no ammonia smell. It was good, fresh air, and that's what you're looking for in healthy calves. We installed a DeLaval CF1000 automatic calf feeder. Our calves all wear transponders, and when they come into the feeding stall, a laptop computer, it's all computerized. The CF1000 actually has a blender system in where the milk replacer gets dropped into the blender mixes it up. Matter of fact, the calf is going to drink right now. The water temperature is all set at 105 degrees at all times. We can set the program however we want it. We have it set up right now that our calves are getting 140 grams of milk replacer per 1.5 liters of feeding. The older ones above a month get that in 2 months, up to 2 months, 1 month to 2 months, they'll get 2 quarts or 2 liters. They can get that up to 5 to 6 times a day. And we really like the system because there's no slug feeding. Calves can come and drink their allotment, and we see a lot healthy, vigorous calves. We have 2 groups, and the calves are each anywhere from 15 to 30 calves in a group. And when they come in to drink, it's the natural sucking on the nipple that brings the milk to the calf. And you know, people ask me, new calves, how long does it take for them to get used to this? We bring a lot of them in here about day 5. We keep them in separate pens by our maternity pens so they get their colostrum feedings, and then day 5 we bring them out here. But by that time, most of them are drinking on their own already, and we walk them into the stall. Some calves 1 time into the feeder, and they're trained already to do it. The next calf, you might have to walk them in 3, 4, 5 times. So it's worked very good. We're very happy with it in every way right now. Ridge opening that has a 10-inch open ridge. We have a 2x8 facial on both sides, and then the open 10-inch ridge is above it. We like it quite a bit, but on some winter days when you get a lot of snow, it does let snow in. So we are planning on reducing it down to possibly 2 inches this summer, and we'll go through another winter and see how that works for us. But overall, we've been pretty happy. It's just the days where you do get a lot of snow, you will get some moisture issues in.
Here we have an addition with 14 calf stalls and a small freestall area. Note that they capped the ridge but left the gasket out for an air outlet. Going inside, we see a nice, bright interior. Note the air distribution tube. It was added after they realized they weren't getting enough air through the building with the tight ridge. This barn has double bubble insulation under the roof, but not in the end walls. Figure 1. This barn is not insulated. Here we see that the heat, what little there is in a calf barn, rises until it makes contact with the cold roof. The heat passes through the roof and leaves the moisture behind in the form of frost or condensation. The end result is that there is less heat left in the air that passes through the ridge. Cooler air going out the ridge carries less moisture with it, resulting in higher humidity in the barn. Uninsulated curtains on the sidewall let the cold seep in, creating a draft. Remember, all animals, calves included, want to be dry first, warm second, and draft free as much as possible. Figure 2. This barn is an insulated barn. Cold air enters at the soffit or a half-inch opening built onto the top of the wall. Now, the heat that isn't lost through the walls and roof can be used to move more air through the barn, resulting in a drier barn. Remember, the calves want to be dry first, warm second, and draft free as much as possible. Insulation also makes for a cooler barn in the summer. You are looking at a setup with 4 50 calf rooms laid out in an H pattern. Notice that the JanAire curtain is down a bit to aid in drying after washing down the rooms. Inside, you're looking at a cleaned out room. Each room has the floor sloped to the center of the building where a floor drain is located. Each alley has heat in the floor. You can keep the room temperature at 30 degrees when it's minus 20 degrees outside and 40 degrees when it is 30 degrees outside. You will notice that the room has a solid ceiling so that they left a half-inch opening above the curtain opening for an air outlet. Air comes in through the air distribution tubes and goes out through the half-inch opening. They do have to close the opening on the west side of the rooms on the coldest and windiest winter days. This room looks like a great place to work in, doesn't it? Plenty of light filters through the curtains. We should also mention that because the calves in the stalls along the outside walls are next to a concrete wall, they insulated the walls from the outside of the building to keep the walls dry and warm in the winter. The utility and feed room is between the barns. This is a view of the bottle washer and milk pasteurizer. Here's the boiler and water heater. Here are the big double doors leading into 2 of the rooms and a wagon to store feed and his pressure washer. Lastly is the garage door, washing machine and miscellaneous storage. Again, we have to say a lot of thought goes into a well-designed facility like this one. This fabric-covered barn has a 5-foot JanAire curtain on each side. Notice the 3-fan powered vents in the roof. They are a good option in a barn like this. The barn has a nice overhang, and you will notice the small vented soffit just above the curtain. Inside we see open penning for the baby calves in the front of the barn and bigger calves in the rear. JanAire is also used on hoop barns. This barn was built with a small roof overhang. A bigger overhang would be desirable. These photos were taken late in the day, but you can still see that this is a nice open building to work in.
Hi, I'm Dave Burrs. I'm with Cozy Calf Cribs, also known as Blue Diamond Industries. We built this barn and we use JanAire curtains. The JanAire curtains are wonderful for the calves. They bring the air in over the calves, high over the calves, because they come top down. These curtains are automatic. They free the farmer to not have to be concerned about the temperature outside, because the curtains take care of that. They rise and fall with the weather.
I once read an article about a dairy family that did an excellent job of raising calves. In that article, it stated that this family would actually adjust the manual curtain they had on their calf barns up to 7 or 8 times a day, if that is what it took to maintain the environment they wanted in their calf barn. JanAire curtains are automated. Just set the thermostats at your desired temperature and let the JanAire system do the adjusting. This solar calf barn holds 50 calves. It has 1 layer of double bubble insulation in the roof, but none in the side walls. There is a half-inch opening where the roof meets the side wall on the front and none in the back, with a 1-inch outlet in the ridge for constant ventilation. All these openings can be adjusted if they feel they need more air in the future. The owner plans on covering the solar roof with shade cloth in the summer. He chose JanAire curtains because they're automatic and they seal tight to eliminate drafts. Going inside, we see the type of stalls he used. Note, in this barn, the floor of the stalls are recessed down into the floor. This is obviously a bright barn to work in, and there will be no restriction of air come this summer. Here's what the north wall looks like. This building has plenty of roof overhang. Here's an example of not having enough ridge opening. This barn was built with attic ridge vents, the kind you would use to ventilate a dry attic on a steel-sided pole-type structure. Even though this barn was underpopulated, there was still enough moisture in the air to frost the vents shut. You can also see frost forming on the roof insulation and the uninsulated end wall. All of these calf barns have one thing in common. They used JanAire curtains on all of their barns to get the environment they desired. JanAire curtains allowed them to have a bright, naturally lighted barn. They have draft-free barns because JanAire curtains seal tight and are insulated. Their barn's ventilation is automated. They just set the thermostats and let JanAire do the work. There you have it. All these features form the most affordable curtain system you can buy, JanAire.